Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. The 1993 movie Tombstone is a Western film that was directed by George Cosmatos. Kevin Jarre wrote the movie, and it stars Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer, with Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth, Michael Biehn, and Dana Delaney in supporting roles. We also get the pleasure of hearing Robert Mitchum's voice at the beginning and the end of the film as he does the narration for it. The movie is loosely based on Wyatt Earp and his brothers, Morgan and Virgil, as they seem to have left their gunslinging ways behind in order to settle down and start a business in the town of Tombstone, Arizona. They aren't looking to find trouble at all, but soon trouble finds them when they become targets of the ruthless cowboy gang. Now, together with Wyatt's best friend, Doc Holliday, these brothers pick up their guns once more in order to take this lawless land and restore order there. The critics all seem to like the movie, and a particular amount of praise went toward the character that Val Kilmer plays as the hard-drinking Doc Holliday. As time has gone on since its original release, the film has become a cult classic. It was shot primarily on location in Arizona, with principal photography starting in May of 1993. The screenwriter Kevin Jarre was supposed to be the director with his directorial debut in this film, but he became quickly overwhelmed by the job that it entailed. He ended up failing to get shots that he needed to get and fell well behind the schedule for shooting the movie. Just less than a month into the project, he was fired, and George Cosmatos came in to take over. In the meantime, Kurt Russell worked quickly with the producer, James Jacks, to edit down this huge script that was originally written, deleting subplots and bringing the emphasis to the relationship that was had between Wyatt and Doc. After things were said and done, Russell has stated many times that it was he, not Cosmatos, who directed the film. That Cosmatos was brought in basically as a ghost director, somewhat of a front man, because Russell didn't want it to be known that he was directing the project. Val Kilmer, his co-star, supports these claims, saying that Russell essentially directed the film. The thing that Cosmatos brought to the project was that he was highly focused on a real accurate account of the historical detail involved. Things like the costumes, the props, the customs, and the scenery. He wanted this to give the film authenticity. All of the mustaches, and there's plenty of them in the film, were real, except for one character, and that was John Tenney's. He was clean-shaven prior to the start of the film, and thus they had to use a fake mustache on him, but him alone. Val Kilmer just sets the screen on fire with quite a few things, and one of the reasons that he catches our attention so well is that he practiced for hours and hours on his quick-draw speed, and he worked on his character's genteel Southern accent. This character stands out more than any character that I've seen in a long time in a movie. It's superbly done by Kilmer, and the writing for his dialogue is over the top. It's great. You find yourself just waiting for him to open his mouth and utter some phrase that's unbelievably witty. Now, one face you'll see and one voice you'll notice in the film is Billy Bob Thornton. His distinctive voice catches your attention first, and you look for him in the scene. As you look, you don't see him, but you know he's there because of his voice. The reason you don't see him is because he's much heavier at the time, and he doesn't look anything at all like he looks today. or even shortly after this film. That scene in which Wyatt throws him out of the saloon was all done to show that Wyatt was a man who used psychology to intimidate people. And Thornton's lines in that scene were all completely ad-libbed. All he was told was that he needed to be a bully. Some years after the death of Doc Holliday, Wyatt was quoted in an interview as saying that Doc was a dentist, not a lawman or an assassin. He was a person that necessity had made into a gambler. He was a gentleman that disease had made a frontier vagabond. A long, lean, ash-blond fellow, nearly dead with consumption. And at the same time, he was one of the most skillful gamblers and the nerviest, speediest, and deadliest man with a six-gun that he ever knew. In the scene where the Earps first enter Tombstone, they pass the grave marker in the cemetery that says, "Here lies Lester Moore. 4 slugs from a .44, no less, no more." A real-life tombstone in Tombstone, Arizona, with that epitaph has been on display for at least 60 years. The Lester Moore that it describes was a Wells Fargo agent. He was killed by Hank Dunston in 1880, and Dunston also died in that fight. In reality, Johnny Ringo didn't die at the hands of Doc Holliday, but in July of 1882, his body was found lying against the trunk of a large tree in West Turkey Creek Valley. It's said that a neighboring property owner heard a single gunshot on the afternoon before he was discovered. He had a bullet hole in his right temple, and his revolver had 1 round expended from it. His body ended up being buried near the base of the tree where he was discovered. Now, at the beginning of the movie, you hear Doc Holliday, who's in a poker game, comment to the saloon girl, Kate, she is not wearing a bustle. His actual dialogue for that scene is, "Why, Kate, you're not wearing a bustle. How lewd." You see, a bustle was a padded undergarment that was worn under the skirt, over the buttocks, in order to add fullness and support to the heavy weight of the dresses that they wore back then. It also served a purpose in terms of modesty as well, as the bustle helped hide the shape and outline of a woman's hips and butt. You see, wearing any kind of dress or skirt without a bustle in those days was considered to be completely lewd, and that a woman that did that was considered a slut. You can tell this film is going to be a good one just by the dialogue that starts it out with that first barroom scene with Val Kilmer and Kate. Go back and take a look at this fantastic film from the early 90s. You'll enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.